Hello! This tutorial is a continuation of the previous tutorial where we created this page which shows a calendar that fetches the events from the database. Basically, we created a table, this table here, the event table, with these attributes, and then we add some hard-coded events in the database, and we configure this calendar here to fetch that specific data. As we can see here, every time that we refresh the page, every time that the page loads, it loads automatically the corresponding events. So what we're going to do in this tutorial is simply to click in the specific event and to open a pop-up to edit the details of each event. And if we click in one of the cells, it automatically will open a new pop-up to add a new event. So we can start with that. By clicking here, we want to open a new pop-up. So first thing to do is to go here to our page editor and go to the widgets part, and let's search for the model widgets, which is this one here, and let's just drag and drop to our region content. We can select this one. Here it is. We don't need this button here. Let's use the show border so we can see this better. Okay. Let's change this title to be add event. Then let's add a form in here. So now let's add a form in here. And let's move all these other elements inside of the form. Okay. Now what we want to do is to open the properties of the form. Inside of the dynamic widget properties, in the property section, we want to select form. So we can show here some options that currently we don't see them. So if I click form, now I can see other properties that will help me to design my own form. So what I want to do here is basically to add the attributes to show the title. Ignore this message, it doesn't really matter. I want to add the start date. So basically the same, these three attributes here. And I want to add the end date. Okay. So basically when I add here, the system were adding new fields in here. So what I need to do is just copy paste these fields in here to this div. Okay. And what I want to do now is to convert this into an input. Where in here I want this to have this class. In here I want this to be an input too, with the type datetime local. The end date, the same thing. Okay. Now I want to change this name to be an event. Maybe I can change the class to be green. Okay. And I have now my pop-up almost set. So what I need to do next is to go to the pop-up to parent element and set an ID. So let's call this add event pop-up. And then if I go back to the calendar widgets, if I scroll down to my callbacks, what I want to use is on select cell callback. So when I click on a cell, I want it to open the calendar event pop-up ID. and I need to set now the correspondent ID of the pop-up, which is in this field here, add event pop-up. So if I save this and if I preview, if I refresh the page, I click in some cell and automatically I can see that, okay, currently is being loaded, is showing the pop-up with the correspondent date. Okay, so let's continue our pop-up sync. So I realize that these fields, the X and the close button, they are not working. It's because I need to add the BS dash in here, and in the close I need to do the same thing. So if I save this and if I refresh the page, now this close fine and this close fine. Okay, perfect. Okay, so next step now is when I click in this add event, I want it to trigger the add resource inside of the form. So I need to go to the events of this button here, and in the on click event I want to select here the trigger form, the item icon, and I want to be the add resource item. Okay, next I want to go to my form, this element here, and I want to add a new add resource type. So if I go to my resource section, I scroll down to my add resource, and what I want to do is to create a new resource, which basically is to add a resource based on that table, the event table that I created in the previous tutorial. So I click update, the system automatically creates all the logic codes so this can be possible, and it's done. And when I add some, if the record gets added successfully, I want it to close the parent pop-up. Additionally, I want to show some successful message saying event added, and if it's not added, I show error adding event, something like that. Okay, so first part is done. So let's save. One thing that we need to do is, after we add some resource, we want to refresh the calendar. So to do that, the form needs to have a dependency. So we need to go to the dependency and saying here, put here the ID of the calendar. So currently the calendar doesn't have any ID, so we need to select the calendar, set an ID. We can just simply call it calendar, and go back to the form, to the dependencies, and add a new dependence and select the ID that we selected, which is the calendar. Okay, perfect. Now there is a step missing here. No, so in this case it's done. So let's save and let's preview to see what we currently have now. Okay, so when I click in some cell, I put here some events, event E with the correspondent, so automatically the system select the correspondent event. I can go here and change all this data if I want to, and if I click add event, automatically shows me the message, and the event is already refreshed in here, event E. Okay, but the pop-up is not getting closed. Okay, the pop-up is not getting closed. Let's see it why. So when I add, I put close parent pop-up. The thing is that the parent element of the pop-up, he doesn't know there is a pop-up, so I need to select it and categorize it as a pop-up. So I need to come here down and I need to select here pop-up. Okay, so now if we save and if we refresh this page again, now when I click in some cell and I put event, the name of the event, and I click add event, now it closes the pop-up, shows me the successful message and refreshes the calendar. As you can see here, it is correct. Now when I click in a specific event, it's not doing anything. So what I want to do now is to create a new pop-up to edit the event. When I click here, when I click in each event, so first let's add a new pop-up. So let's do the same thing that we did basically. Let's replicate most of the actions that we did for the add pop-up. So let's search for the model widget. Let's drag and drop it here. Let's delete this button that we don't need it. Let's change here to be edit event. Let's add in here the form. Let's copy all these fields inside of the form. Okay, in here save changes, it's fine. Okay, let's fix the problem with the close and the X buttons, that this should be yes. So in this case should be yes in here, and in here the same thing. Yes, okay. Now what we want to do is, in the form, in here, let's go to the properties of the form. Let's select here form, so we can have these forms here. And what I want to do is, in here, I want to add the title, to see the title. I want to add the start date and the end date. And additionally, I could see here the event ID. Okay, so let's move all of these guys here inside. Just put it here, and then we move it up the event ID. Okay, and what we want to do next is to convert these into input fields. So basically the same thing that we did before with the add pop-up. Okay. Now, what we can erase this guy here. Now, when I click in this button, what I want to do is to trigger the update resource of the form. So what I need to do is to go to the event section in here and select this option here, the update resource item, which basically will trigger the update resource of the form. So if I select my form now, I go to my resource section in here, and in the update resource I'll select the event table, and in here update a record, and I do update, and automatically the system will create for me all the logic codes, so I can save the correspondence information, the corresponding fields that the user edits in this pop-up into the database. Additionally, on complete, I want to close the parent pop-up again, and we need to create a dependency. We need to add a dependency so we can refresh the table. So I need to choose here the calendar. Okay. Additionally, so basically this is the same steps that we have done in the add pop-up, but since this is a pop-up to edit an event, we need to do something else, which is, so every time that this pop-up opens, we want to load the information of the corresponding event. So in the load resource, what we want to do is to get a specific resource, get a specific record here. So we do new resource, we select this query type, get a specific record, and we do update. So automatically the system created this event for us. Additionally, what we want to do is, in the load type, we don't want this to be load on page load. We want to be load none. So the system will only trigger this when the pop-up gets open. So we need to tell that to the system. So how can we say that? So we need to basically to tell to the pop-up that this form is a dependency of that pop-up. So in order to do that, we need to add an ID for this pop-up. Sorry, for this form first. So let's put here an ID saying edit event form. Let's copy paste, and then let's go to the pop-up, and in here in the pop-up what we want to do is in the dependency we want to set the dependency as the form that we added, which is in this one, edit event form. Okay, additional, we need to categorize this element as a pop-up, something that we did before too. Okay, and I think it's done almost. Okay, now we need to go back to the calendar, and in the calendar we need to go to select a specific callback. So we can say to the system, every time that I click in an event, it should open that specific pop-up, which is the pop-up, this pop-up here. So to do that we need to have an ID in this pop-up. So let's call it edit event pop-up. So let's now select the event, the calendar, and in the calendar let's scroll down, and in the callbacks in here, when I click in a specific event, I want it to open the calendar event edit pop-up ID. And then in here in the data set, what I want to do is to create a new data set, which basically I need to put here in the edit event pop-up ID the correspondent ID of the pop-up, which is this one. So if I save this, and if I now refresh the page, if I click in some event, I should see the correspondent information of that event, as you are seeing. If I go here and if I change something here, or if I put, let's say, instead of having this, let's put it 15 also. Okay, if I save this, we are getting an error on the update event. So let's see it why. So this pop-up here in the form, in the update resource, we should have the resource in here. No, okay, the resource is here. However, I think we forgot to do something, which was we need to select in here the corresponding primary keys. So we need to put here the event underscore ID corresponding to the primary key of the event. So he knows that when he will edit a specific event, he is editing that event based on the event ID. So if now we refresh this, if we click in the event and if we click save, the event is getting saved. Of course, we could add some messages in the update resource, so we could put something like in here, success message, saying something update successfully, or saying error updating, something like this. So if we save, and now if we refresh the page, every time that I click in some event and I put whatever, I click save, automatically it gives me the message, it closes the pop-up, it gives me the message and updates the calendar with the corresponding changes that I did. If in here, let's say that I put here 18, and if I save, automatically I can see that the event gets updated correctly. So if I want to add in this form another button to delete the elements, so I can simply copy this button here, paste it in here. I can change this string to delete, I can change the class, something like this. And now I can set the trigger of this button. Instead of being the update, I want to be the remove source resource item, which basically will trigger the remove resource that is defined in the form. So now we need to define in the form, we need to define the remove resource. So we need to scroll up, go to the resource part in the remove resources, and in here I need to set a new resource to remove the event. So to do that, I need to go to this pop-up here and select remove a record. Do update, so the system can create all the logic code corresponding to delete specific record. It's done. And when what I want to do is when we create deleted, what I want to do is to close the parent pop-up again and then refresh the dependent widgets, which we already set before. Okay, so if we save this and if we refresh, now if we click in this event, if I click delete, as you can see the event got deleted. If I wanted, I could put, which I didn't, but I could put maybe a confirmation message saying, are you sure? Something like that. And if the event got deleted, I could put it, remove it, okay, something like that. Otherwise, error removing. So if I save and if I preview, I could see that when I click in a specific event, every time that I click delete, you'll prompt a question saying, are you sure? No, I'm not sure, so it's not doing anything. Perfect. If I really want to delete, I click OK, and it deleted. He showed me the message and then refresh the calendar, showing that the event disappeared. So if I, as you can see, if I refresh the page, the event is not here anymore. So basically it's just to show you how can you create a calendar where you can add events in here, and then you can click in the events and you can change them, or you can remove them through this view, or if you want through, let's say, this view here. So in this case, let's say I want to have an event like this. So I put the name, I click add event and automatically add the event. Otherwise, if I just want this event, I can just put the name, is exactly the same thing. As you could see, automatically it shows me the corresponding events here. I can delete them or I can change them. And that's it. Very simple, just to show you an example, a simple example. How can you click in things and show based in pop-ups, creating some interaction so the user can do multiple different things. So, and that's it. So thank you very much.